The resistance trap. Learn to thrive by letting go. Have you ever noticed that the more you resist something, the more it seems to persist in your life? It's a perplexing paradox that has fascinated thinkers from various fields, from psychology to philosophy and spirituality. This phenomenon challenges our instincts to resist discomfort, change, and even the undesirable aspects of ourselves. In this video, we'll delve into the intriguing concept of life's greatest paradox: what you resist persists. Life's greatest paradox: what you resist persists. Resistance is a common human instinct. We often resist change, discomfort, and the aspects of ourselves that we find undesirable. But what if I told you that the very act of resistance can lead to these undesirable elements persisting in our lives? This paradox is a profound concept that has been explored by thinkers from various disciplines, including psychology, philosophy, and spirituality. Carl Jung and the concept of the shadow. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung introduced the idea of the shadow, a concept that delves into the depths of our unconscious mind. According to Jung, the shadow is the repository of our repressed characteristics, the traits and qualities that do not align with our ego ideal. These attributes, which we unconsciously hide in the dark, often elude our awareness and manifest themselves indirectly in our behaviors. In many cases, we even deny that they are part of us. However, Jung believed that the shadow exists as an autonomous entity. It can sometimes manifest unexpectedly and unpredictably, not because it is inherently evil, but because the repressed content within it seeks expression. As long as we fail to address the contents of the shadow, its unexpected attacks will persist, influencing our lives from behind a curtain. The shadow is a prime example of the paradox. Things we resist tend to persist. When we deny the existence of these undesirable traits within us, they remain in place and can even begin to negatively impact our lives. It's a logical truth: we cannot get rid of something if we do not acknowledge its existence. The Buddhist perspective on suffering. The Buddhist tradition offers another perspective on this paradox, focusing on the nature of suffering. The Four Noble Truths, foundational teachings in Buddhism, lay the groundwork for understanding the path to enlightenment. The first noble truth states that life is dukkha, commonly translated as suffering or unhappiness. Dukkha takes various forms, including grief, boredom, frustration, and disappointment. Suffering, according to Buddhism, is an inherent part of human existence, transcending social status. However, the path to enlightenment and the end of suffering begins with the acceptance of the first noble truth, recognizing the inherent suffering in life. Resistance to the reality of suffering only perpetuates it. For example, if we resist the natural process of aging, clinging to our youth as if it were an eternal state, the inevitable aging process becomes a source of suffering. By accepting aging as a natural part of life, we take the first step toward reducing the suffering associated with clinging to youth. Similarly, clinging to attachments in our relationships can lead to suffering when those attachments are disrupted. By acknowledging the impermanence of relationships and understanding that people come and go in our lives, we can mitigate the shock and suffering that comes with loss. Acceptance in the Buddhist perspective is the first step towards personal transformation and the alleviation of suffering. Resistance to the truth of life's suffering only perpetuates our suffering and leads to what Buddhism calls the second arrow: additional unnecessary suffering caused by our responses to life's challenges. Psychological projection and the unconscious. Psychological projection is another way in which resistance can lead to persistence. Through projection, we see qualities in others that actually hide in our unconscious selves. For example, an individual may view themselves as loving and tolerant, but carry a tendency to be profoundly hateful and intolerant in their shadow. When they harshly accuse others of being hateful and intolerant, it's a form of projection, the shadow lashing out in response to what it observes in others, but detests in itself. This ironic reaction reflects the severity of the projection, and Carl Jung emphasized the potential dangers of not being aware of our shadow side. Denying the existence of the shadow are repressive qualities that only strengthen their hold on our lives from behind the veil of our unconscious. We may even find ourselves possessed by the shadow without realizing it. To prevent this, Jung urged us to integrate our shadows into our conscious lives. Integrating the shadow and the power of acceptance. Integrating the shadow requires two critical forms of acceptance: the acceptance of the existence of repressed traits and the acceptance of these traits themselves. Only when we acknowledge the existence of these traits in our unconscious can we begin the process of integrating them. Jungian psychotherapy, often referred to as shadow work, focuses on the unconscious mind to shed light on what lurks in the dark. According to Jung, the shadow offers an opportunity for personal growth as it contains characteristics that, when integrated, can positively reinforce and expand our personality. Edward Whitman, a Jungian psychoanalyst, noted that the shadow, when realized, is the source of renewal. It provides an opportunity to break free from impasses in our lives and enrich our personalities by incorporating previously repressed traits. In essence, the adage, "what you resist persists," ring true in the case of the shadow. Resisting one's shadow side only results in it persisting influence from the unconscious. Transformation becomes possible when we accept and shine a light on what we have refused to see. The absurdity of denial. Albert Camus's perspective. French philosopher Albert Camus introduced another dimension to the paradox of resistance. He explored the concept of the absurd, the notion that the universe lacks inherent meaning, and our search for meaning in this void is ultimately absurd. Camus believed that resisting the inherent meaninglessness of life only deepens our existential despair. He identified two ways people escape the absurdity of life: physical and philosophical suicide. Physical suicide is the most straightforward escape, a tragic end to a reality perceived as unbearable. Philosophical suicide, on the other hand, involves denying the meaninglessness of life and embracing a belief system that provides artificial meaning or purpose. By making this leap of faith, individuals suspend their rationality and critical thinking to alleviate their existential angst. However, Camus argued that confronting the absurd and accepting it is the path to living authentically. Denying the reality of the absurd through philosophical suicide does not make it disappear. It merely provides temporary relief. The backward law. Acceptance as a positive experience. The concept of acceptance as a positive experience is a powerful counterpoint to resistance. The backward law suggests that the acceptance of negative experiences is itself a positive experience. This rings especially true when applied to the things we resist. Acceptance not only serves as a positive experience in its own right, but also paves the way for transformation. It illuminates the aspects of our lives and ourselves that we have refused to acknowledge, potentially turning them into fertile ground for personal growth. In essence, the paradox of resistance is a profound reminder that facing our fears, accepting our shortcomings, and acknowledging uncomfortable truths are essential steps towards personal growth and a more authentic, fulfilling life. Conclusion. In conclusion, life's greatest paradox lies in the simple truth that what we resist tends to persist, whether it's the repressed qualities within our shadow, the suffering we deny, or the meaninglessness of existence we evade. Resistance only serves to prolong our struggles. Embracing acceptance, on the other hand, offers a path to transformation and personal growth. It's a reminder that facing our fears and confronting uncomfortable truths can lead to a more authentic and fulfilling life. So perhaps it's time to ask ourselves, what are we resisting, and what might we discover by embracing it? Now, a quick question to you, our dear viewers. How do you typically handle the aspects of yourself that you find undesirable or uncomfortable? Let us know down below in the comments. If you're new here, hello and welcome to Motivation Matters Most. Here in this channel, we talk about self-improvement and motivation with different stories to go along with it in order for you to find your success in life. If this is something you're into, consider hitting the subscribe button and ring the bell icon so you can be updated on our next upload.